Hey everyone, we'll give another minute or so for people to come on through before we get going. All right, we'll give one more minute and then we'll get started here. All right, thanks everyone for joining. My name is Eric Lafon. I'm Customer Success Manager here at Hiver. Welcome to Hiver Office Hours. Really excited to have you all here today. In going over some of our recent product updates from June, we launched quite a lot, and we're excited to go through those with you here today. Just a safe harbor statement with anything regarding our roadmap, our product, is while we're excited to share our vision at any point in time, those things can change. Direction can always change based on market conditions, competition, etc. So we always like to put this ahead of you. We appreciate your trust, and we'll continue to strive to earn it. All right. So with that being said, let's dive into our new releases. One thing to note is feel free to drop your questions in the Q&A. I do have some team members here that are able to answer those in real time. We might also address some of these at the end. We have about 10 minutes or so at the end for Q&A, which we can dive into any that we don't get through in the Q&A section, right? So keep that in mind. If you have something top of mind, feel free to throw that in there. We have some team members on the background that can help answer most of these. Time at the end as well to go through any additional questions. All right, so let's go ahead and let's start with some of our AI capabilities that we've added in. So the first one being our AI Help Center Builder. Right, so you're probably familiar with our help centers, also known as knowledge base. We've renamed those to Help Center. And what our AI Help Center Builder does is it allows you to read past closed conversations and using AI, turn those into ready to publish articles. So you can create an entirely new help center based on those closed conversations from the past, right? So you don't have to create one from scratch. You don't have to review those. AI can do the heavy lifting for you, still gives you the ability to review, to edit, and decide what you want to publish as a help center, like you can with one that you build on your own. We can also then use these help centers for things like an AI Copilot, right? So I can use that as a knowledge source for a Copilot. So let's go in and let's actually show this. So just so you all are aware, for each feature that I introduced, I'm going to go into a demo environment and also show you what that looks like. So let me go ahead and do that. Let me stop sharing. I think I got the wrong screen shared. Let me make sure I got the right one. Let's get this going. All right, that should be better. And let's see if this wants to load. All right. So moving in and showing the AI Help Center, this lives in your admin panel here. You'll notice a new section on the left-hand side labeled Help Center. So there are a few new things here. If I go to create a help center, you'll notice create from scratch. This is what you've always had the ability to do. Create your own articles on your own, manage it that way. The new ability is start with AI. And what we're going to do is simply select which shared inbox we want to generate articles from. And again, that's looking at past closed conversations to select from. So let's say this is, we want to do this for our support mailbox. We can click on this generate articles. This takes anywhere from maybe 10 to 30 minutes. So I won't show that, but I will show an example of what that looks like. So as you can see here, we have a created support AI help center, right? And we can edit these just like we can with our other help centers, right? So it's going to shoot out some categories, some subcategories, and then within that, it's creating these articles automatically, again, based on those past conversations in the input that we get from there. I can still come in here, I can still edit, delete, decide what to publish, right? So I still have full control. The big difference is AI is now going through those historical emails, creating all the collateral for you, and then I can come in here and use this as a help center, maybe on my website. I can grab the link here, or connecting it to an AI Copilot. So let's say I want to use this to power Ask AI for my team members in the support mailbox. I can use this as a knowledge base for them to answer those questions, right? So really great addition here in taking out the work of having to create all these different articles. Let's use AI to do the heavy lifting and create those for us. All right, moving back over. The next one is there is some overlap here. So I'm gonna add on into the help centers is we now have a knowledge hub, right? So maybe you've seen on the left-hand panel, but what this does is it gives your team a dedicated place to manage all those knowledge sources for Hiver AI, right? So again, we're using something like Ask AI or Copilot to help answer questions, draft replies, and resolve customer issues. So we can bring in a slew of knowledge sources, things like websites. So let's say you have pricing pages on your website. You can connect Google Documents and Google Drive. Let's say you have a folder with all your SOPs, Notion, Confluence, one-off docs, right? So we can feed all of those into what we now call our knowledge hubs. So let's go over and I will show you. And again, I mentioned these help center, those are one of the items that we can add into that knowledge hub. So now that I have these help centers, I can look over into on the left-hand panel, we have our knowledge hub. So this is the single source of truth for everything AI related, all these sources that we want to be included for leveraging Hiver AI, right? So we upload these on the back end, right? So I mentioned here, we can connect websites. A lot of teams that we see have maybe pricing page or things on websites that they want to include here. If you use Confluence for maybe wiki, you can connect that. Google Drive, so I can come in here, I could add folders or individual documents and add those as sources, as well as individual snippets, documents, and Notion, which is a widely used tool for project management, for database management. We can connect that here. Now, as you will see here, if I scroll down, I can see all of my knowledge sources that we have connect into the Knowledge Hub, right? So I can see all my sources here, and then I can determine which of these sources should be tied to which copilot. And so what I mean by that is I can come in and look at that support help center that we just created. And if I do have an AI agent, I can connect that. But more importantly, we'll probably be using these for our AI copilots. And I can map this to which mailbox, which copilot I want this associated to. So in this case, I probably only want it to support because it was created specifically on support emails. But let's say this was something that was maybe organizational wide and we want to include it in the copilot for these three mailboxes. I can click and save that mapping. And now in each of these three mailbox, when they go to Ask AI, they will have this as a source that our AI will be looking at when they're looking at maybe draft replies or you query our Ask AI. So it ties in with your help centers, but more importantly, it allows you to connect various sources here to power that AI copilot for the team. All right. let's move on. And again, if you have questions, I see some coming in. Our team will be answering as many as they can. We'll have some time at the end as well for some questions. All right, let's move on to some of the core updates for the core product features here at Hiver. All right, global configuration. So I've been at Hiver for 2 years. I've heard this from a number of companies, especially I think larger companies or organizations that have many shared mailboxes. What we've heard is I might have the same tags that I want to have across the board, right? I want it in 8 different mailboxes or automations or custom fields. So we've heard you loud and clear. What we've done is added the ability to come in and set on a global level these configurations for tags, custom fields, and automation. So I can create and manage global settings that'll apply that tag to whichever shared mailboxes we want. It could be 3, 4, or it could be all of them. Same with custom fields and automation. So really great advancement here for those maybe larger teams with a lot of mailboxes where there's a lot of similar maybe automation fields that we want to apply across the board. So let's move over and let me show you what that looks like. All right, so on the left-hand panel in your admin, you will notice something here for global configuration. So this is a new tab that you will see here. And this is where we can come in if we're an admin and manage our global config. So I can manage these across the board. And again, this is currently for automations, custom fields, and tags. Maybe down the road there's some more settings, but for now it's for these three. And the setup is the same, right? So we will look through an automation builder and it'll be the exact same builder, right? The big difference is we can select which mailboxes we want this to apply to. So again, could be all of it. Maybe it's for support, operations, and finance, and I can apply that. Another thing that we can do here is we can select this to auto apply to future shared mailboxes. So that's probably more in the use case where I want all my mailboxes to have this, and any additional mailbox that we ever create will inherently get this automation or tag or custom field added to it. The rest of the builder is the same. So we come into an automation. Let's say we want to build a rule for anytime the subject has the keyword billing, right? And then the last step would be to create that action. And we have maybe a tag. And you'll notice here, this is an account-wide tag. So this is a tag that we have across all of the shared mailboxes, and I can apply this and save. Right, so the architecture is the same in that the builder is exactly the same. The big difference here is I can select which mailboxes, some, all, and also auto apply it to future shared mailboxes. I can control that setting here and save it. I can then control this. So let's say I have a automation here. I can always come in here and edit. So let's say I don't want finance to have this. I can simply remove it from them and save. And instead of having to go into all of those mailboxes, I can control that here. Same exact thing for the custom fields. Same exact thing for the tags, right? We're adding the tags and we're selecting which mailboxes to apply this to, right? So a really great update here for those larger teams with a lot of mailboxes, the more operational work to maintain consistency across the board. We heard you. We've added this ability here for you. All right. Let's move on to the next one, which is our web forms. So we've heard from teams that might be using a third-party system for a website or a web form builder. They have to build it outside of Hiver, and then the responses land in your shared mailbox. So what if we could create those web forms directly in Hiver where we're already managing the work, already managing the inbox? So with web forms, we've added the ability to build these forms in Hiver, customize it, customize the fields that you want to see, and then again, publish that URL for customers to use. And those responses then will land in whichever shared mailbox you determine they should land in. So let's take a look at what that setup will look like. Again, here on the left-hand panel, you'll see a section here for web forms. Very simple to create, right? So let's go ahead and create a web form, right? So we can customize the name. The biggest thing here is where those submissions should land in, right? So let's say I'm a finance team and any, I don't know, any billing disputes will land in our finance shared mailbox. So I can determine which shared mailbox I should land in. I can then customize the fields. So you can see here a customer preview, right? So this is what your customer is going to see. I can rename some of these required fields, right? So subject, let's say I want to rename this to describe your issue or question, right? And these are going to map to custom fields within Hiver. And I can add additional fields here, and these are pulling from our custom fields, right? So let's say I want, as a finance team, I want to ask, what's the invoice number that we're referring to? So I can have that as a question. But again, because it's a custom field, we can have this map to the custom field when this gets submitted. So as they answer this invoice number and submit, on the right-hand panel in our custom fields, we will get that number populated there for added visibility, right? So I can customize this to my liking and create this form. And what we'll get is, here's an example of what that form will look like, right? So I can have this URL. Let me go into our edit. So I can have this URL that I maybe share on my website, have it in your signature, share directly with customers. They go directly through this form, and then you get the insight that you need. So the benefit of this is, I think a lot of teams get emails without the information that they need. So whatever you're looking to capture, whether it's priority level, invoice number, we get that captured, and you don't have to go back and forth 3 times to get all the information. All right, moving on. All right, task generation via automations. So this is an update for specifically for our integration with ClickUp. Uh, Incoming support is for Jira and Asana, so we're looking at project management, task management tools for now. But what it allows us to do is, is to automatically generate tasks in automations when it meets certain criteria, right? So we can set if conditions, and we can have that automatically create a ClickUp task. So let's go over, there's a two-part to this. So let's go into our automations. Let's say for our ops team, we want to build this out. So within our automations, I'm going to go to create an automation rule. And again, you can create the criteria of when you want this to hit. So you can create those if conditions. I'll do a very simple one. Let's say in the body, there's something like urgent or bug, something along those lines. So you can create all the filtering mechanisms that you want for when it would create that task. And then in our actions, if I scroll down to our connected apps, you'll see ClickUp, and I can create a task automatically in ClickUp, right? So again, concept is simple here. What's the trigger? So new conversation, maybe. What's the if conditions? So maybe keywords, who it's coming from, whatever conditions you need. And the action will be to automatically create that task. Now, the second part to this is how it's created is based on what you set up in the apps in integrations. So let's go over to integrations and apps, and we'll look at ClickUp. And there's something here for the card info that says pre-fill fields. And if I go to this, what I can do is I can pre-fill some of these fields. So anytime we create a ClickUp task, and that could be manually. So if you manually go into an email, say create a ClickUp task, certain fields could be pre-populated, or in the case that I just showed you through an automation, these pre-filled will show up in the task that you create. So I can use variables like the title. I can just automatically pull in the subject line, the description. I could add a descriptor, maybe add a private permalink variable so that whoever's looking in ClickUp can link back to it. I can select my workspace and where I want this to land in ClickUp. So again, in the automation, when you do create a task automatically, it's going to pull from these settings that I have for the pre-fill fields in a ClickUp task creation. So however I want to pre-fill these, and you don't have to do all, that is then going to determine when I automatically create a task, it'll follow this logic. Again, right now for ClickUp, Asana and Jira are coming soon. All right. Moving on. This is a simple one, but what we've added is the ability to have multi-user authentication for your PM tools. So right now, the way it's worked is whoever creates the connection with a third-party app, so ClickUp, Jira, Asana, is all of the logged items are going to show up under their name. Now, what we can do is have each individual connect their ClickUp. And so if there's an update pushed via an automation, it'll show as coming from that individual user. So this one's a very simple one, but just to show you, if we go to our apps and integrations, since I'm already in, let's go to ClickUp. Where did that go? And under our authentication, it's a simple toggle on to this user level authentication. So again, currently it's just been whoever authenticates this, all the updates would be showing as them. If you wanted those to show on a user level, you could enable the change, and then each user would authenticate with their own ClickUp credentials in this case. Small change, but we've heard some feedback that this would be helpful. All right. Let's move on to sender and domain exclusions. So this one is specific to what we call our personal inbox to shared inbox automation, excuse me. And so what this does, if, for those of you unfamiliar, is it allows you to select emails from your personal inbox to automatically get synced to a shared mailbox. So think use case is typically, let's say, an account management team where they have a shared mailbox, but also their customers will contact them directly a lot. A lot of our teams we've heard want those to automatically also sync to a shared mailbox. And so you have the ability to essentially white label a set of domains through custom objects and tell the system if an email comes from a matching customer that we know from this list, automatically sync it to the shared mailbox. Now, this update that we've had is all it does is the reverse, is our custom object could say any email syncs except anything that's on this exclusion list. So think of it more of like a blacklist. We're going to automatically sync from your personal inbox to the shared inbox unless it meets this criteria, maybe one of these senders. So let me show you what that looks like. So I'm going to go to one of our mailboxes, our automations. And again, keep in mind this is for elites. So if you don't have this, this is our only on our elite plan. If this is something that you're interested, please reach out. But you're going to see this under the individual inbox automations. So this is what allows you to create these automations where if a new conversation lands in a member's inbox, so their personal inbox, Eric at hiverhq.com, I can select who this should be for. So maybe it's only a subset of users, not everyone, or I can select everyone. And again, the big change here that we're seeing is instead of from domain is or matches a row in a custom object that we have created, the change is does not match. So let's say I want to essentially exclude any internal emails, right? So I could say maybe is not hiverhq.com. That means no internal emails to my personal inbox. would sync to the shared mailbox. We don't want any internal. That could be personal. Or I can select this does not match any row. I can select my custom object where I have a list of domains. And again, think of it as an exclusion list. We're going to sync everything in this case, except if it is in this row. So let's say we have a columns for domain name. It'll exclude all of these and only sync the rest of it. So it's just a simple, the inverse of excluding certain attributes. All right, moving on. Status sync for app tasks. So this is a simple one, but agents can now update status of ClickUp, Jira, and Asana tickets directly in Hiver instead of having going into that third-party tool. Let me show you what that looks like. And I have one for Asana. So just a reminder, you can create or link emails to Asana tickets, ClickUp, Jira. So I can come in here and I can create a new one. In this case, we already have a task created in Asana. And so this is linked to this email. And if I go to the card, which shows me all the Asana details, you notice here on the bottom is completed, yes or no. So this is the Asana status that we can now update here, and it'll push that update into Asana. So you would come into edit, and let's say we came in here and we completed this one out. I could change that and mark it as completed. This will push the update into not only here, but into, oh, that one didn't save. But it would push the update into Asana as well. So you can control that status directly from here from the card. All right, let's see, we got a few more. Domain level permalink. So what this does is, as I'm sure many of you are aware, Hiver has private permalinks for every email that you can share, right, internally, right? We do have a collaborate ability to collaborate with non-Hiver users for internal. So let's say someone at Hiver that I'm connecting with internally that doesn't have a Hiver license, there's a collaborate feature. This feature is to allow outside domains the ability to access these private permalinks and access the email contents from this link, right? So think other teams that you might work with, vendors, third parties, sister companies. I can now come in here and I can change those settings and they can access those private links. So for this one, this is going to be a shared mailbox setting. So this is not a global setting. This one will be for the entire, or for the shared mailbox. And let's go into our operations. This is going to be under the sharing settings for that shared mailbox, right? So in this case, you'll notice here, there is this for people from specific domains, right? So if I come in here, I toggle this on, and let's say I work with Nike.com as one of our partners we frequently work with. We need them to be able to see some of these emails. This will allow those private permalinks to now be visible to anyone with this domain. So if I go into my email and I go to this private link, if I hover over here, you'll see it's a secure link for any approved domain. So they can see it, they can add notes, and you can see their approved domains, Nike.com. So it's a great way for us to be able to collaborate with people outside of our organization that do not have a license in Hiver. All right, let's see. Oh, that was the last one. We went through that. Um, Perfect. So that was the end of the session in terms of presenting all of our updates. As you can see, we're excited with how quickly we're shipping new updates, and that all comes from your feedback, right? So we appreciate the feedback you share with our support team, with your customer success manager, your account manager. That all bubbles up to us, and that really does have an impact on our roadmap. So appreciate that. Let's go ahead and let's take a look at any questions that we have. I see there's a number. I know my team's also been looking through some questions. Let's see if we have any that are unanswered. And feel free now, we've ended the session. If you have any lingering questions, anything that's pop up, please feel free to go through those as well and add those questions in. Let's see. I see a lot of these. I see some notes on I do not see global configuration in mine. I'm an admin. I think I saw that for another one as well. This is something we just released. Let me go back to my team and see if this is widely available to the team or if that's coming imminently. So if you don't see it, you should be seeing it shortly. So we'll make a note to follow up with you all on that note. But just know if you're not seeing it, it should be coming here very shortly for you. Some of these might be at the final stages of being released to the wider audience. All right, let's see what else we got. A lot of these already answered by our team. I see a question about shift management and auto assign. Great question. That is outside the scope of our June updates, but we can follow up with you. I'd love to hear a little bit more about what your requirements would be for shift management. It is something that's on our radar. It is something that we are researching. So I see Avshalom, we can follow up with you. I'd love to get some feedback here in terms of what's your requirements. All right, I see another question here from Leah. Is there a way to view all emails across various mailboxes that have the same tag? That is a great question. As of right now, there's not a way. Mainly being each shared mailbox does operate independently, right? You do have to give access to individual users on a mailbox basis. I'm not sure if this is something that we will be able to implement, but it is a good question. We can follow up with you and see if there's anything in the works for that. Would also love to just understand a little bit about the use case for that. But great question, Leah. I appreciate it. All right, let me go through. I think that might have been the last one. Again, if you have any last questions, feel free to put them in the Q&A. All right, I see a question from Nathan. What's going on, Nathan? Are there any plans to add ways to monitor the use of Hiver AI? Who is using it to write email drafts? There are some things that we have in the works in terms of a way for admins um, to monitor adoption of Hiver AI across the board. I think it's still TBD of the level of detail it will go into, but we definitely understand the need for admins in particular to understand what's going on, how the team is leveraging it, where there might be room for opportunities. You know, hey, we think AI tagging is something we'd love for the team. Can I see in our own kind of backend dashboard that it's something that we're not using as an organization or particular users? So it is something on our radar. I do believe we have something in the works. So stay tuned. It's definitely something to keep in mind as we evolve our AI capabilities. With that, we want to empower admins to understand how AI is being used across the teams. All right. Um, let's see. I see a lot. The rest look like they have been covered. Okay. If we missed any, our apologies. We will go through the list and we have all your contact info. So apologies if we missed any. It looks like we did get quite a lot and I think we handled all of them. If we missed any, we'll make sure to follow up with yours. One last note for anything that came through today, right? You have a number of avenues to connect with the Hiver team. Right? You can contact our support They're available 24/7. So if you're interested in any of these features, not quite sure how to use them, support can help you with anything you might be struggling with. You also have your customer success managers for those of you that have a dedicated success manager. Please feel free to reach out if something from today resonated with you and you want to work with them on how to implement that. That's another great avenue to go, as well as your account manager. So, a lot of ways for you to get help with implementing any of the new features that we went in. I see two new questions came in. Let's see, Yainer, good to see you. Help center generate it by AIs just in English to generate in Spanish articles. That's a great question. My understanding currently is if your emails, because it is pulling from past responses, so if all your emails are in Spanish, it should generate those articles in that language, in this case, Spanish. Let me confirm with the team, but that is my understanding of how that would work. All right. And then last question I see here from Ryan. Any features coming to save a reply as a template to be used again? So if I'm understanding correctly, Ryan, and we can reach out for further clarification, we obviously have our email templates, right? So you can create those templates. Maybe you're saying, let's say I don't have a template for it. I want to, maybe I create the response and then I want to be able to save that as a feature template. I think if I'm understanding correctly, that's what you're asking for. Great question. We can take your information and follow up with you on that one. All right. I think that is all the questions. So we really appreciate your participation. A lot of really great questions. We are extremely excited for what we are building here at Hiver. And again, this all stems from feedback we get from you. Right? So keep them coming. Don't be shy. We really value the feedback. And it's the only way we can continue building things that really matter to you, our customers. So please feel free to keep routing them through support, through your customer success manager, through your account manager, and we will continue to do what we can to build on top of what we've already built. So appreciate your time. Thanks everyone for participating. Have a great day.